Every day, somewhere in the world, a massive urban transformation project begins. Billions of dollars are committed, high-profile leaders are brought in, and construction surges forward. And then, the exact moment the structure looks perfect, the story just stops. Cameras roll for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Consultants hand over glowing final reports. Politicians shake hands and declare triumphs. There is a major flaw in how we measure these massive investments. We are grading the exam before the ink is dry. Almost all consulting and development projects are evaluated either while they are actively being built or the precise second the contractors pack up and go home. This timeline represents the typical life cycle of a major project. We obsess over everything leading up to that finish line. But look at the void that follows. This is the missing period, the 5, 10, or 20 years that follow when the original funding is gone and the political winds have shifted. Billions of dollars are wasted globally because our standard metrics mistake a project's completion for its long-term survival. Without studying that missing decade, we have no way of knowing if a project truly succeeded. Mapping what happens in that dark space is the sole focus of the Kauffman Center think tank. For 40 years, Mariano Bernardes has tracked urban and organizational projects across multiple continents to see which ones actually endured. Unlike academic centers that begin with a theory and look for evidence, the Kauffman Center starts in the messy reality of practice. They look at what happened on the ground and work backward to understand the mechanics of sustainable change. This longitudinal lens reveals a critical distinction between social capital and social performance. It separates the raw resources and goodwill a group starts with from the tangible results they produce over the long term. Measuring the initial resources of an organization is a poor predictor of its future. The only metric that counts is the sustainable performance those resources generate decades after the consultants have left. To track that survival, the Kauffman Center utilizes the City Doctors methodology, a tool developed during the transformation of Colón, Panama. The model treats a struggling city exactly the way a physician treats a patient. It forces leaders to look past surface-level symptoms, like a crumbling bridge, and diagnose the deep systemic causes hidden underneath, such as economic drivers or policy failures. The real test of the City Doctors approach is the 10-year audit. If an administration only treats the visible issues, those surface symptoms might momentarily vanish. But because the underlying root causes remain, the decay eventually resurfaces as a much larger crisis a decade later. This process creates a level of accountability rarely seen in urban development, ruthlessly comparing the original diagnosis against the actual enduring results 10 years later. Treating the symptoms of a failing system without tracking the long-term cure is the equivalent of urban and organizational malpractice. Decades of data show that most catastrophic project failures stem from good intentions, specifically solutions that inadvertently trigger new, fatal problems. This is the law of unintended consequences. Without strategic feedback, leaders remain blind to these emerging, self-created crises. They continue down the original path, unaware that their own solutions are destabilizing the system. This risk is why the research highlights a specific principle: start small, big change. Massive multi-million-dollar projects often lock in their strategies years in advance, making them unable to react when their solutions begin creating new problems. Targeted interventions, however, allow a system to test its assumptions, listen to the results, and adapt before the investment is lost. The capacity for a system to learn and adapt over time is more valuable than the raw size of its initial investment. To understand these forces at their limit, we have to look at the massive scale of the ongoing transformation of Villa 31 in Buenos Aires. Successfully integrating an informal settlement into the neighboring economic powerhouse requires aligning property rights and local commerce with the city's formal systems. It is an immense challenge of synchronization. This transformation into Barrio Mujica is one of the most extensive longitudinal studies ever conducted in Latin America, tracking progress from 2016 with projected scenarios stretching to 2036. The study monitors grueling, complex metrics, not just the number of new houses, but the survival of property rights, the suppression of narco-trafficking, and the durability of local governance over 20 years. This research reveals a central paradoxical threat. Success is not a static finish line. Early success creates new pressures, like population surges or shifting economic demands. If a project cannot evolve to handle the growth it created, that very success becomes the catalyst for its eventual failure. True leadership is measured by the sustainable performance that survives for decades, not the size of the initial budget or the number of ribbons cut at the launch.